Hello there friends, it's your boy here with the first episode of a new series. It's SkyFactory 3. So it's just you, me, and this lonely tree right now. Well actually I'm chopping down the tree, so it's just you and me, but that's exactly how I want it. Because you and me are going to build up our empire from this lonesome dirt block out here. And we're going to do so by using some 1.10 mods, because this is a 1.10 skyblock mod pack. And it's similar to some other mod packs you may have seen, such as SkyFactory numbers less than 3. Infinity had a skyblock mod pack, and there's also Project Ozone, so you guys probably know the drill by now. Because this pack did come out on New Year's, I believe, of 2017, so we are nice and late, fashionably late, I'd like to think. But I am excited to play this mod pack because it has a lot of nice time-saving features, such as vein mining, which didn't work, wrong button. And also, we can quick grow trees by twerking next to them, so whenever we're crouching really fast, that's the equivalent of bone meal. And so this tree is going to grow super quick, which is very nice because in a lot of packs I would have to use my finite amount of bone meal, or I'd have to just sit and watch trees grow, and I can only twerk for my own amusement, but at least in this pack I can be objectively productive while doing so. Alrighty, so we got some wood, and as I said, we are going to be expanding our empire here. And to do that, we're first going to make some more dirt blocks so we can get some more trees going. So I'm going to make a wooden barrel from Nilo. And as I said, you guys probably know the deal. I am going to go ahead and expand my platform while we're at it though. And that's looking pretty spacious here, so I'm going to set that down. And with this barrel, we can compost some organic materials in order to make dirt blocks. So I could use my saplings here, but that's actually a pretty inefficient way to make dirt blocks because we don't get a lot of saplings from trees, and it's going to take a lot of trees to get enough saplings, because it takes like 8 saplings or something like that. So instead of doing that, we're going to make some wooden shears and use leaf blocks instead. So we'll plug that down and grow that really quick, and then I can just vein mine those with my shears. We will get the leaf blocks, and each tree is going to give us almost a stack of leaf blocks, and then we can put those in, and 8 leaves is going to make 1 dirt after just a little bit of time. So I will just grab that, and I am going to expand my platform a little bit more even so we can place down another tree and our trees will be nice and far apart. I don't want my trees touching, hands to themselves. I'm not going to condone that kind of behavior on my floating platform. So let's go ahead and plant our other tree, and then you'll see that we have a bone meal range that's pretty large. We were pretty gifted with a lot of twerk ability, so we can grow 2 trees at once. But before we chop down these trees, I actually want to make a crook. We're actually going to make a couple of crooks here, and we're going to break the leaves with these crooks instead of our shears or anything else, and then that is going to give us a chance of getting some of these silkworms. And also, whenever you break things with a crook, you do get an increased drop rate of saplings and apples, I'm pretty sure, so it's a good idea to do so if you don't need leaves or anything. So let's grow a couple more trees. Oh my goodness, that's a large tree. Actually, I will go ahead and use that tree to my advantage. We're going to place down a silkworm on one of these leaves, and that's going to become an infested leaf. And slowly but surely, all those leaves are going to turn white, and it's actually probably going to take a while because we do have such a massive tree, but that's going to give us a lot of infested leaves, which is good in its own right. Oakley dokley. So I think all of our leaves have transformed into completely infested leaves. I'm guessing. I can't actually see the top of the tree. I also expanded my barrel setup here, so we got 5 barrels now, which is pretty nice. But before we cut down this tree, we are going to make a compressed crook by just combining 4 crooks to make a new crook. And that's just gonna give that crook a lot more durability. So whenever we vein mine this, we're not gonna just break a ton of our crooks. And we're gonna make sure we have a lot of hunger, because vein mining does take hunger. And then we're just going to bop this, and hopefully that breaks all of it, yeah. And as you can see, all those leaves, whenever you break them with a crook, and you want to break them with a crook because you get more drops. I'm saying crook a lot. I'm gonna try and stop. We're gonna get a ton of string, which is really nice. Actually, we got a ridiculous amount of string now, but that's okay. It's always good to go a little bit overboard. But now that we do have this string, we can actually progress on to getting some other materials other than wood. We can actually go to stone and metals and whatnot. So we are going to make a sieve, just like that. And this is where things start to deviate from maybe some other packs you've seen before, so we'll place that down. And normally in other skyblock mod packs, we could just go straight into sifting, but now you actually need to make a mesh, and there are different types of mesh, but we cannot make any other types of mesh other than string mesh. And then you have to just right click that mesh in, and now you can actually start sifting stuff. So I'm gonna sift dirt, and just by holding right click, whenever that runs out, we're just going to get some different items. So from dirt, we're going to get a bunch of different seeds, and we're also going to get some of these little pebbles, and these pebbles we can actually turn right into cobblestone. And I am running out of room for all these items, so I'm going to make a storage crate from actually additions because they are absolutely massive. Get out of here, manual, I don't want you. And so obviously we're just going to start with a small one, and then we can store everything in there. And here are all the items I got from my sifting, so a bunch of different seeds like carrot and melon seeds, and we also got some tree seeds, so we can get a bunch of those saplings if we want. So currently, sifting dirt is the only way we can get cobblestone, but obviously that is pretty annoying, so we want to work our way up to a cobblestone generator, so it'll be completely automated, we don't have to think about it. But to get a cobblestone generator, we're going to need some buckets for the water and lava. And luckily, in this pack, we can actually get buckets without having to use any iron or anything. We can use clay instead. So let's actually go and get some clay now. But the first thing we're going to need to get some clay is some water. So we're going to make a different type of barrel. Well, actually, this is a crucible. And we're going to place this crucible on top of a heat source. So the torch is the only one we can really do right now. And then we're going to fill that with some leaves. And you'll see that the fluid volume of that is going to go up, and that's creating water. It's like melting the leaves, I guess. And goodness gracious, that actually takes quite a while, but it's finally done now. We have a bucket of water in there. So we're going to need to dunk some dust in that water to turn it into clay. So I'm going to make a hammer, and with the hammer we can break down that cobblestone we just got into some other blocks like gravel, sand, and finally some dust. And as I said, we're going to dunk that in the water, and that's going to moisten it up into some clay. And then we can break that clay down into some balls, and I'm actually going to start some more water up because we're going to need quite a bit of clay here. And with those clay balls, we can make an unfired clay bucket, and then we can make that fired by putting it in a furnace, and I will plop that down right there. And then we just smelt that right up into a fired clay bucket, or just a regular clay bucket, I suppose. And this thing can actually hold liquids. The unfired clay bucket cannot hold liquids. And so I guess the name of the game is going to be to just get some more clay, which is probably going to take a while, so I'm going to make some more crucibles, and hopefully I get it done. And it looks like we have enough clay for now. I just got 3 more blocks, and I also made another bucket here, so we have 2 clay buckets, one for the water and one for the lava. But that also brings up another problem, is that we actually need lava. But to get lava, we're going to need a different type of crucible here, other than these regular oak ones. And to make that new type of crucible, we're going to need some bones. So I'm going to go off and make a little spawning platform. Now, I'm about to starve to death from all this vein mining, so I do have some potato seeds, and I will go ahead and do that. Another thing you can do is also, you can put these silkworms in a furnace, and you can make food like that, but it's not very good food. It only gives you like 1.5 hunger chops, so it's not that great. But hopefully, using this spawning platform, we're just going to be able to get a bunch more bones, and then we'll just be able to quick grow all of our potato crops and whatnot. Oakley dokley, so our little platform is done, and basically the idea is to just make a really simple spawning platform out here, and because the mobs can spawn nowhere else, they're all just going to spawn in this little area, and it's 24 blocks away from our little platform, so we have good rates, hopefully, when we're over there. And we already got our first skeleton, so I just made a wooden sword, and I'll just slay this guy real quick. And there's a bone, but we're gonna need a few more bones than that, of course. And there we go, all these skeletons are dead. That compressed skeleton split up into like 9 other skeletons. And we also got some loot bags, so I may as well open these up. Loot bag time, loot bag time. Sacrificial dagger, okay, I guess. But we got a wrench, that's actually pretty handy. And more bones, that's actually really handy. And now that we do have those bones, we can come over and get some potatoes first. Actually, I'm about to starve to death. But the main thing we wanted the bones for is to get a bit of bone meal. We're actually gonna need a little bit more. And then we're gonna combine that with a bit of clay to make some porcelain clay. And then we can use that porcelain clay to make that other type of crucible. This is an unfired crucible though, so we're gonna need to wait for our potatoes. Actually, I'm just gonna take these out, I'm impatient. And that means we're going to get a regular crucible here. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to place it above a torch, but this time we're going to put in some cobblestone, not F1, cobblestone. And that cobblestone is going to slowly turn into some lava, just like our leaves turned into water. Oakley dokley, so it looks like we finally got our bucket of lava now. So I'm just going to scoop that up in our clay bucket, and it should be noted that if I place this lava down, this clay bucket would get destroyed. It's a single use whenever you're dealing with lava and clay buckets. But luckily, I'm not actually going to be doing that. Instead of making a traditional cobblestone generator that we have to mine from, I'm actually going to make one from tiny progressions that's completely automated, and we don't actually have to break any of the cobblestone, but I do need a piece of glass, which I forgot to make. But now that we have that, we can go ahead and get that done. So just a bit of cobblestone and that water and lava bucket will combine up into a cobblestone generator, and it uses the bucket that the lava was in, which makes sense because it would do that if we were to actually make a cobblestone generator. Let's just plop it here, seems okay. And every second or so, we are actually going to be able to get a piece of cobblestone from this. You can see in its internal buffer if we shift right click, and then we can just right click and it'll actually give us that cobblestone. And so now we have an infinite source of cobblestone, and this is really nice because we can set down that cobblestone and turn that into gravel or sand or whatever. And we can just vein mine that to, well, okay, it all fell off the edge. Really awesome. Really great decision. But we can vein mine that, and it should give us the gravel, and then we can actually sift this to get some other resources like metals and whatnot. So right now I got some iron ore pieces, and it takes 4 of these pieces to make a chunk, which then we can turn into an ingot. So that's why this cobblestone is pretty important. We need it in order to get all those metals and redstone and diamonds and whatnot to actually progress further. And a quick tip for sifting, if we actually make a ton of sieves, which I have done, and I'm making a ton of meshes now, and then I'm also going to grab the mesh and this sieve by just shift right clicking with an empty hand, and then we can just break that. If we take these sieves and we run over and put them all adjacent to one another, and then they all have the same mesh type, so all the types are going to be string in this case because that's the only thing we can actually make. Whenever we put a block into one of these, it's actually going to put it into all of them, and it'll sift all of them at once. So we can sift a ton of items all at one time, which really speeds things up quite a bit, which is nice. And this works up to like a 5x5, I think. It may even go higher than that as long as you have all of the same mesh type in all of these sieves. So right now I'm only sifting gravel, but if we sift the other items, we're actually able to get different drops from them. So sand drops different things from dust, which drops different things from gravel. So it's good to sift all of them, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing. But actually, before I get into any really serious sieving, I think I'd like to upgrade my sieve setup a little bit here. So instead of these regular string meshes, I think we're going to use some flint stiffened meshes, which is surprisingly hard to say. So we're going to make 9 of these babies. And these upgraded meshes are going to allow us to get some different items from our basic meshes. So if we look in NEI, we can see that the regular mesh will get us flint and all of these ores, but the flint mesh is actually going to give us coal and lapis and still the same ores. And I do want that coal and lapis, which is the reason I'm going to upgrade to that flint stiffened. Of course, we can keep upgrading. We can go to iron stiffened, which will give us diamonds, and we can also go up to diamond, which will get us emeralds. So for the majority of our materials, we are going to be using these flint meshes because they are pretty good. They're not too expensive either. But there is still an item that we can't get with these flint meshes, and that is redstone. Now, redstone comes from dust, but it only comes from dust that is sifted in, I believe, an iron mesh or higher. So we're going to make some of these iron ore chunks, and then we're just going to smelt those up into the 4 iron ingots we need to make that iron stiffened mesh. And then we're going to need another sieve here, but I'm not going to make the regular sieves. I'm going to make a heavy sieve. So let's grab that and just set that down. I'll just set it down there for now. I'll probably move it later. So these heavy sieves are going to allow us to put in and sift this compressed material. So if we just get a bunch of gravel here, we can combine that into 9 and get a compressed gravel, and then we can come over and put that into our heavy sieve, and that is going to essentially let us sift 9 at a time. So you see we got a bunch of materials at once from just one block, and that's because that was essentially doing 9 gravel at a time. And so I'll use this to sift dust and a bit of gravel as well, because I do want the diamonds that come from the iron mesh and gravel. But for the majority of it, I am going to use this 3x3 of flint meshes. So with that done, we are now going to get onto the mesh grind. Oakley dokley. So quite a while later, these are all the materials that we got from our sifting. I didn't do very much dust or sand really, so I only got 18 redstone. Redstone's pretty rare, it's kind of annoying, but I got a ton of iron and stuff, so I thought we'll call it quits for now. So the next thing we need to do is work on processing all of these ores, and of course we don't just want to craft those into 4 and then smelt them regularly, we want to at least ore double these. And I think a good method of early ore doubling is going to be using Tinker's Construct. So I got a ton of clay while I was doing my sifting and waiting for the cobblestone to generate, and so I'm going to use that to make a bunch of grout, and we're probably going to need more grout than that, but we do still have a lot of clay. And then we will just smelt this up with all the coal that I got from all that gravel. So the first thing we're going to need to make a smeltery is a controller. That's going to be the brains of the smeltery. Next we're going to make some sort of tank, and I'm going to go with the seared gauge, I think this is. Yep, there are 3 different types of tanks you can make. Each of them take different amounts of resources. They just look different really. Same functionality. We're also going to need a couple of drains, well just one drain, although eventually I'll probably make multiple, and we're also going to need one of these faucets to actually get the liquids out. We're going to need a casting table and basin to mold those, and I'm going to go ahead and make another drain for those. And then we're just going to need a ton of the actual seared bricks. Alrighty, so I made some room over here after I got a few more bricks, and we're going to start off with a 3x3, and we're going to make sure not to put in the corners just to save on some brick for now. Eventually I will go back and fill in the corners because it looks so much nicer with the corners actually in there, but I want to be cheap for now. So let's put in all the bricks, and then we have to put in the controller and whatnot. So the only stipulations with this part is that the controller and the tank both have to go somewhere in the center. They can't go anywhere on the corners. So this is functional, but if I were to put the tank or the controller on this block, it wouldn't work. And for now, I'm only going to install one drain because I can actually access it from 2 sides, so there's no point in putting the second drain in right now. Alright, so that's done. I have my clay bucket here, and I'm just going to use that to move a bucket of lava into our tank here so we can start it up. You saw that the bucket went away because I used it with lava, but I don't need that anymore anyways because I can just make iron buckets. But before we get iron, we are first going to get some brass. But to make brass, we're going to need some copper and some aluminum in a 3-to-1 ratio, so 3 aluminum and 1 copper, and we can just pop that in there for now. That'll smelt up. You see the aluminum goes really fast because it's got a low melting point, I suppose. But you'll see once this copper melts, they are going to mix together slowly and make some molten aluminum brass. And we're going to use this aluminum brass to make some molds so we can make ingots and pickaxe heads and all of that. So we're going to place down our casting table, a faucet so the liquid can actually go into the casting table, and whatever we want to cast. So we want to cast a seared brick, and then if we just right click, that's going to put a bunch of aluminum brass into this mold. That's going to dry, destroy the seared brick, and now we have an ingot cast. So now if we pour some metal in, let's just take out some of that aluminum brass. That is going to dry up into an ingot, so we can make aluminum brass ingots just like that. And that goes for any metal. So if we grab some iron, I think I already have some chunks. Yep. Let's just throw some iron in there right now. This iron is actually going to get ore doubled, so we end up with 6 ingots of iron instead of the, how many was that, 3 we would have gotten normally. If we just click this, it'll go to the bottom, and then we can right click and take out the iron and make some iron ingots. So this is basically just really easy lava-based ore doubling. We don't have to worry about RF or anything for now. And now that I have my first 3 iron ingots, I'm going to make a regular bucket so I can transfer a bit more lava over to this tank. Of course, that is sort of annoying that we have to transfer the lava by hand, because if I want to set it and forget it, just put all my ores in like a chest or whatever and they just get ore doubled and whatnot. I'm gonna want an automatic lava production into this tank. And so an auto lava setup is going to just basically entail taking cobblestone from our cobble generator and putting it into some crucibles and piping that out into our tank. So that doesn't seem too hard at all. That seems pretty manageable actually. So let's get to some things to pipe items and liquids around first. So we're going to use some extra utilities to do that, and I'm going to need a bit of redstone actually. And these extra utilities pipes are really cheap, and so they're good for early game. So we get a few transfer pipes. We are going to need a chest, and then we can create some transfer nodes, and those are going to transport our items. Let's also, while we're at it, create a storage drawer for all the cobblestone so we can get a bit of a backup on that, because this only holds 32 at a time. And you know I'm getting rid of that rain pronto, but while I was waiting for the rain to go away, I've been over here killing mobs, and I've mainly been trying to kill some endermen because I do want a couple of ender pearls, and these endermen have not been very cooperative and have not been dropping ender pearls. I don't think that guy dropped them. Oh no, he did drop one, just one of the head crumbs mobs picked it up. I've killed a lot of endermen and only 2 of them have dropped ender pearls, but that's okay because that is exactly the amount we need. So we're gonna make some fluid transfer nodes so we can transfer fluids, and then we need the ender pearl to make some retrieval nodes. We're also gonna use our 1 diamond, but I think it'll be worth it. So these retrieval nodes, instead of sending out fluids from an inventory, they are going to suck fluids in. So you'll see that in a second because we are going to set up our little lava setup right over here. So let's place down our storage drawer right here at the very end, and then our cobblestone generator right on top. And now I gotta break the slab. I don't think I have an axe. All right, then all we have to do is just pop on some transfer node and some transfer pipe, and then cobblestone should go in there. Yep. And so that storage drawer is going to act as a bit of a buffer, and then we're going to pull out some cobblestone from that buffer, and that is going to come into our crucibles. And I did make a few more crucibles, 2 more to be exact, and I'm also going to grab this one from over here. So right now this cobblestone is not going into these crucibles, even though they're hooked up with cables. It's all just staying in this transfer node right here, and it's going to stay in this transfer node until we actually put some torches underneath these crucibles. So I'm going to have to break one of these really fast. So if we put these underneath, the cobblestone should go in there because it knows that it can actually do something with that cobblestone. So there we go. We are making some lava now, which is great. So the next thing we need to do is actually take the liquid out of here and put it into some sort of tank or something. So we could put it straight into our Tinker's Construct tank, but I want to have a buffer tank so I can come over and take out without having to take out of my smeltery. And so I think we're going to make some of these modular tanks, which are pretty cool because they're modular. I bet you would not have guessed that if I didn't tell you. So we're going to need a bucket, and we're going to start off with the first tier of tank because we're going to basically just upgrade our tank, and I did that the wrong way. There we go. So we get a wooden tank, which can only hold 4 buckets, and it's also flammable, so we probably don't want to put our lava in there. But you can make a hardened clay tank if you want a 4-bucket tank that you can actually put lava in. If you want that. So I think the upgrade we're going to go to is this lapis tank because it can hold 256 buckets, and we do have a bit of lapis here. So we need 5 lapis, and to make an upgrade we just put an X of whatever material we're upgrading to, and then some glass panes, and we get a tank upgrade. So let's place down our tank, but you'll see that this is not actually going to work because we can't just jump up upgrades all the way up to the lapis. We have to go through the tiers. So the tier up from the wooden one is going to be any sort of stone, so let's go ahead and make a cobblestone upgrade. And then I've also smelted up a bit more iron because we're going to have to go up to the iron tier, which is the next tier up. Alright, so let's make the iron upgrade like that, and now we should be able to upgrade this tank. So we go cobblestone, all we have to do is right click, then we go iron, that's going to hold 64 buckets, and then lapis is going to hold 256 buckets. So that's actually a really cheap tank for how much it holds. You can break this, it'll retain all of the liquids inside for only 5 lapis, 5 iron pretty much. So we will place that down there, I think is a fine spot. I think I am going to want some more crucibles here so we have a row of 5 eventually, once I actually get to making more crucibles. But for now, we're just going to place a retrieval node on this tank, and then we're going to hook it up to all these transfer pipes that are already hooked up to our crucibles, and that should theoretically suck up the lava from those crucibles, I think. Okay, that confused me for a second because the lava isn't really rendering in there. Oh, it sort of is. I think it's just very low right now. There we go. Okay. So now that we have like 2,000 millibuckets, you can actually see it. So this retrieval node is actually really nice because if we didn't have it, we would have to put a fluid transfer node on every single one of these crucibles that we want to have, and only then would the lava actually get extracted. But this retrieval node is going to look for all these and automatically extract without having to have those, so it's going to automatically suck it out of all the things connected with pipes. But now we want to get this lava into this tank, so I'm actually just going to move the tank, and we'll just put it right here for now, I suppose, and then we'll add another layer onto our smeltery. Alright, so now that that's in there, that should hook up, and we have the lava in there already, but if we hook up our transfer node for liquids, and then just a transfer pipe, that's going to suck out of there and put into our smeltery. Oakley dokley. So before we actually start processing our ores in our smeltery, there's one more thing I want to make from Tinker's Construct that's going to help with that process a bit, and that is going to be a Tinker tank. So this is a new thing in Tinker's Construct 2, is the tanks, and they act pretty similar to a smeltery. They will hold liquids in the same way, but the really good part about them is that they won't actually mix the liquids. So in a normal smeltery, I would have to be careful about what sort of liquids I'm putting into my smeltery at the same time, because if I put in 2 metals that are going to mix, well, I'm gonna lose those basically. It's gonna be annoying. But with this tank that we're making right now, we shouldn't have that problem. So this is the basic structure, but I did forget to actually make a tank controller. Alright, so I had to make some more iron, but let's make our controller now, and then let's pop that into this Tinker tank. So you can see the capacity is 1,000 ingots, which is pretty crazy. And as I said, this thing works a lot like the Smeltery, so we can actually pipe in and out of it just like we could a Smeltery. So let's quickly do that actually. So I'm gonna move the drain that was on this smelter. I'm gonna move it right over into here so we can pipe out the back and hopefully not have to really see it. So let's plop a transfer node, a fluid transfer node onto that, and that's going to extract whatever is in there. And I already had an ingot of iron in the Smeltery, so that is already in that transfer node. And then let's go ahead and put down another drain, and I suppose we'll just put it there, I guess is a fine spot. I can move it later if I don't like it there. And then all we have to do is just run piping straight into that. That's not where I wanted that. Piping straight over into there, and that hopefully should insert, there we go, some iron right into there. But this drain will work just the same, so all we have to do is just put our casting table down right underneath it, and then we can just pipe straight out of that, and we get our iron ingot, just like that. So by removing all the liquids from the Smeltery and putting them into the tank, that's going to ensure that we don't get any mixed liquids that we don't want, any alloys like aluminum brass or something unwanted like that. So there are only a couple more things we need to do before we can really start to process our ores completely automatically. One of those things is to get some more transfer nodes, and that is so we can pump out this liquid from the tank and just put it straight into our casting table here. So we can just do that using a liquid transfer node. It'll work just the same as this faucet. And then also let's go ahead and output the ingots from this casting table by just putting an item transfer node, a transfer pipe, and then we can just put a chest down and that'll work just fine. And then to pump items in, again, we're just going to use a transfer node right into that controller so we can just put all the stuff we want to smelt in this chest. And actually another thing I want to do is at least add another layer to this Smeltery and fill in the corners. So I'm going to put in some cobblestone into our Smeltery, and so that is going to smelt up into some seared stone. As you see, that's getting put into this tank here, and then that's going to come out into some seared bricks. And so each piece of cobblestone is going to make 2 bricks, so basically 2 pieces of cobblestone is another seared brick we can add to our Smeltery. And so this is a nice way of getting some more of these seared bricks without having to make a bunch of grout and stuff and smelt it in a furnace. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put in all of our ores that we want to smelt as well. And so after it's done with that cobblestone, it'll get to all of the other ores. So now it's pretty much just a waiting game. I guess I'll just sit around and wait for all this to smelt. I have nothing better to do with my life, so here we go. But I think that is where I'm gonna have to leave you guys for this episode. It really didn't seem like we got a lot done. This was a lot of game time, but not a lot of progress to show for it. Eventually, once we get past this beginning stage, it'll go a lot faster. Also, the obligatory sorry for the lack of videos. I'd really like to say that it's gonna get better, but in all honesty, it probably isn't for the next month or two. I'm trying to focus on some projects that aren't YouTube for a little bit. I'll probably try and live stream more in the mean and in between time though. Live streams are a bit more relaxing and less time intensive, but we'll see. In any case, I want to thank you guys so much for watching my videos. If you made it this far, you're a champion, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.